separate the gray water from the black, which is what our system does, and use the gray water, and then we still use the black water too. But this thing of gathering everything up to one spot, I mean, in Tahoe, they gather it all together and pump it up and over a mountain to a sewage treatment plant, so that, if the power runs out, they got backup generators. So you can take a poop for another 2 weeks longer before you can't do that. Just how ridiculous is it that you can't take a crap if the fuel runs out? I mean, it's not good the way we're living here. We got issues. I was just in the Galapagos Islands. They have problems there. They're deporting people. Because they're ruining the infrastructure. Got all these prehistoric turtles and everything, and sea lions all over the place, and it's a pristine part of the planet. And while I was there, they asked me to come there because they want to try to employ some of this, and I was blown away. I'd never been to the Galapagos. There was a conference, some kind of a thing, and they had me talk at it, and I all had to be interpreted, so it was definitely difficult. But they presented their whole sewage treatment schematic, and they were all proud of it and everything. A bunch of maps and stuff, drawings and pictures and everything. And the end result, I had somebody interpret that presentation to me. So what they did is they collected it all in this expensive infrastructure. Infrastructure is expensive and not necessary. It's archaic in today's world. But they gathered it all together, and this one or two big pipes went down the beach, maybe a mile or so, and dumped it into the ocean. That was their sewage plant. Dumping in the Galapagos Islands all the sewage, and from the storm drains. They got it all just like the Americans. Storm drains, mixing the gray water with the toilet water, putting it all together and taking it down and dumping it into the ocean. I mean, the Americans definitely have been, I like America, I'm glad to live here, But, when I was hearing these other guys talk, I'm like, like in Haiti or whatever, wherever the Americans go to help people, they drive up in a tank and give you a sack full of plastic food that's going to kill you, but while they're giving it to you, they drive over your foot in the tank, and while you're nursing your wound, they go around back of your house and drill an oil well and take your oil. I mean, that's the way the Americans, help out the world. And so, do I really want to be a part of that, But really, in most cases, do I really want to be a part of the human race? Because trees are the ones that have it together, They don't have any of these problems. I would advocate, training your children to be trees, It might not go over in school very well at first, but persevere. But trees, they have everything. Truthfully, I'm not making a joke here, so quit laughing. The trees are my model home. They go up there and they have solar collectors, photosynthesis. They get the sun, they catch some water, the roots go down in the soil and get the water. They drop leaves and twigs and they become dirt, and the dirt becomes food. I mean, it's just so well figured out, Like I was in the forest. I hike a lot in the mountains. I run a lot in the mountains, and it keeps me from attacking people and things like that. But I run a lot in the mountains, and I was running past a couple ponderosa trees, and there's all these little ponderosas, real cute, just all different levels there. And I thought, I'm always thinking that's becoming a problem. But I saw these little ponderosa trees, and I thought, I'm always thinking tree. This is in my mind a lot about trees, believe me. And I thought, well, what if that was a mommy and a daddy there, and that was a bunch of little baby humans? All these little trees were just there doing the same thing that the big trees did. Well, if it was a bunch of baby humans, they'd all be crying and screaming and shitting in their pants and everything. It'd be a joke. The humans had to be cared for. And whereas the trees, the seed comes up and they've got it together. in other words, there's a lot to learn from trees, but also animals. You know, when I look at the planet for information, the last place I'm going to go is to a human. You know, the trees know what they're doing, the animals know what they're doing, the insects know what they're doing. You know, dogs, my black dog, he lays in the sun in the wintertime, and he lays in the shade in the summertime. What a concept. Wow. You know, and there's a lot of things like that, you know, that are out there. All you have to do is just, you know, quit doing what you're doing. But so it is ridiculous what's going on here. It is funny, but it's sad. So anyway, we just are. The point is, how can you argue with people like we have on this planet? I tried, you know. I spent 4 years in the state legislature, and it really was eye-opening and everything like that. But it was sad just to see. You can see why nothing gets done. And I went to Copenhagen, you know, thinking because of all the hype that something was going to happen. But it's talk, it's rhetoric, they can't think beyond, out of a different realm. It's almost like I always try to come up with ways to try to tell myself what's going on so I don't get mad at people. But it's like our whole world of humans is defined in black and white. And some really smart humans figured out, whoa, kids, there's all these shades of gray in between. We got lots of choices. But none of them are aware of the fact that there's a whole color spectrum. They can't go there. Our human world is as limited as black and white and all the shades in between. But the answers for how to live in the future are out there in the color spectrum, and think how many of them there are. So it's just go, you know, out there and get them. And so everything that we're doing that we would talk about and show pictures of is just not even scratching the surface. And the overall message of what we're doing, we're making a carbon zero home right now. We're trying to make it super cheap for developing countries, and we've got it on the market. We sell them. We go around and do them all the time. But it's not. It's just a scratch of the answer, and it's the thinking. It's the thinking that got us to what we do. If people applied that thinking, oh man, it would go crazy. If people would allow themselves to think, like I unfortunately am like a storm chaser. When there's a disaster, that's where I go. Haiti, we'll be going there in March. Because disaster is an arrow that penetrates dogma. They're going to be all ears for anything in Haiti. After the tsunami, I had just come from the legislature where I was begging, pleading, hammering, really trying to clean up my act and wear a tie and everything and get presentable and, bastardizing myself completely to relate to these people. And, but it was clawing and begging and pleading and hard work and frustrating and everything. Just to sell anything that I've talked about here so far today. Most of it I couldn't even talk about there. But I'll go to a bunch of engineers, and they're engineers on the Andaman Islands, and they were in tears practically. They were saying, let's do it now, let's gather the bottles, let's gather the tires, and they were just like the enthusiasm. But I'm sure it was partly because they just had a wave hit them and an earthquake, and they're up for anything. But the enthusiasm of third world developing countries is far less corralled than the developed world. The developed world is corralled into this black and white spectrum. And that's the first thing is getting out of that. Let's see what else we have here. This is my car. I did biodiesel for a while. This thinking applies that it applies to everything, and it's not in just housing. It's transportation, and it's it's clothing. It's everything. And if you're just how we solve it is how we solve it. But what I'm advocating is the thinking more than anything else. But anyway, I made biodiesel for a while, and it does use ethanol and lye and stuff. And finally, I took the easy way out. This is an old, late 70s or early 80s Mercedes. I can just go to Long John Silver's and get a bucket of grease and in a 5-gallon bucket and dump it into another 5-gallon bucket through a T-shirt, straining it, and dump it into the tank, and the thing runs. It smells like a French fry and runs. And I did you can't see it that well, but the body work, had some body work done. Avocado washing machine, found a pink refrigerator. So, you can take this all, it's like, in a way but it's, I love that car. My wife calls it a Putzmobile, but it runs, it starts, and runs on grease. So you can take it in every level. I get pretty fanatical with it. My coat was from a secondhand store in Scotland about 10 years ago. It's just about gone, but it's a carbon zero coat, But we're starting to put food into, food is one of those 6 points. I can go into each one of those 6 points in depth, and at the workshop, if I'll just let anybody ask me what they want to go into depth on, what I'm finding is that it's the black water and the sewage system more than anything else, which support the food. It's all interrelated. See, the food comes from the gray water. In other words, when you add a greenhouse to a house, the greenhouse grows food. The greenhouse also creates, the food is what treats the sewage. So the food treats the sewage, and the greenhouse accommodates the plants that make the food that treat the sewage. And then in arid climates, of course, or any climate, the greenhouse also makes more roof space to collect more water. And then in cold climates, the greenhouse is a buffer zone to protect the inner living spaces from the outer spaces. So there's 4 reasons for the greenhouse. So when you think in layers about all those 6 points with every step of every part of your life, it becomes kind of a forceful thing. Well, the food we're growing tilapia in the house. My son just went fishing the other day in the living room of this house. And all you do there is you're in control. You're like God, you starve the fish for a day, and then you drop in the bobber with the little piece of whatever on it, corn I think is what they use. And then, like less than a minute, you pop out the big tilapia like that. And you go, I got this whole sequence of pictures somewhere, and then you go and wash it out in the rainwater from the sink and clean it and cut it up, and then go and gather a bunch of vegetables from the gray water planters. And these are grapes, artichokes, cantaloupe, vegetables, bananas. That's just some of them. The idea with this home, it's not my home. I can't afford it. But it's a demonstration home that we let people stay in as a nightly rental. And the idea is that home employs everything that you all are talking about here in terms of food, but on an individual homeowner's basis. And if you took some of the knowledge that you all have here and plugged it in, this place would be a lot better. You guys know more about what we're doing here than we do. But the objective with this home is not only to show that this can be done, it makes its own power. harvests its own water, contains and treats its own sewage, produces food, heats and cools itself, and it's made from garbage. And this is the food